The program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB as we broadcast live from Super Bowl 48, our Radio Row coverage brought to you by our friends at Sprint, Amini's Galleria, Twin Peaks, Bud Light, Bob Allen Ford, and of course our good friends at the Low T Center. And a chance to talk some quarterbacking or talk some Super Bowl with one of the finer quarterbacks ever to play in this game, Mr. Joe Theismann. Joins us here in the program. Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm terrific, thank you.
We mentioned
always good to join you.
Usually our conversations come from the driving range in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, well, I'll just take the warmth.
Yeah.
I'll just forget about I'm willing to pass up the golf just to find a little warmth here in the last couple of days.
Yeah, everyone talks about the weather. It doesn't look like that's going to be a factor.
The only way the weather was a factor in this Super Bowl was the contingency plans that were created. And I think some of the people that were concerned about flying across the country may have decided against it because of the uncertainty. That's what you deal with an outdoor environment like this. And the players are going to play. It doesn't matter what the weather is, blizzard, rain, snow, warm weather, cold weather, freezing temperatures. We're going to go out and do our job. I just think of the fan experience for the Super Bowl. I just believe it ought to be someplace where people can enjoy the entire atmosphere, everything that is the Super Bowl.
You know, be outside and
be outside and be able to walk around. I mean, it's been so cold at night you freeze your rear ends off out there.
It is. It has been chilly. What do you think about the two quarterbacks? Everyone talks about Peyton Manning. I want to ask you about Russell Wilson.
I love it.
I think you got to look at Russell Wilson and see a lot of yourself. I mean, similar size.
Well, you're
actually looking down on him. There aren't many guys
you're complimenting me by saying, looking at Russell Wilson. He is wonderfully gifted, tremendous athlete, and there are a couple things that people haven't talked about a lot in this game that I think will be the key. Number one will be the offensive line of the Denver Broncos, how they handle that front of Seattle's, because those guys are, they talk about Marshawn the beast.
Yeah.
These guys are beasts. And also Russell Wilson's ability to throw the football. You're comparing someone to Peyton Manning, which is impossible. So when you look at Russell's had some very efficient games where he's thrown the ball very well. When you look at the Denver Broncos and the AFC Championship game, it's a different game if Tom Brady hits a couple of passes where he had people wide open and just flat missed them. So the opportunities may be there in this game. And if Marshawn can run the football effectively, Russell's going to be extremely difficult to deal with, both throwing and running.
And that is a big part of the equation, is the ability to handle the run of the Seattle Seahawks. They get him out, though. They roll him out. He scrambles around a lot. Is that what you got to do when you – I mean, I think his barefoot measurement at the Combine was 5'10 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees is not a big guy.
Right.
He gets the ball out of his hands quickly. I think what Darryl does with Russell is he moves them very well. They run the play action. It all comes off the running game.
Right.
If they can gain 4 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards on 1st and 10 and keep the chains basically moving, stay in rhythm, stay inside the chains, you're going to be tough to defend. That's what Peyton does with the passing game.
Is that the hidden part of this that everyone's talking about, the Broncos offense against the Seahawks defense?
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, the run defense of the Broncos defense, their defense against the Seahawks. I mean, they're both – it's 1-1, but it's also like 17 against 19 as far as the rankings go. That's an even match as well.
Well, you have two givens. You have the offense of the Denver Broncos, the defense of the Seattle Seahawks, the 2-1s. Like you say, the 17 and the 19. That's where the game gets, dicey. Who can move up the ladder in that area is going to make a world of difference.
Yeah, and that is going to be a big part. And the Denver defense is underrated from that standpoint. They are one of the best run defenses in the NFL.
They have been. Jack Del Rio is a heck of a football coach. And Jack probably would have been a head coach in the National Football League had it not been for the position of being the defensive coordinator into the Super Bowl.
And it's one of the things that sucks if you live in Kansas City. Because I was really hoping the coaching staff would get rated and they'd take guys away. It's not happening, We've seen injuries. They've overcome that. Now at least we could have gotten rid of some of the coaches. I'm with you. We've talked to Jack, and you probably know him. He was always out in Tahoe
Jack
as well.
and I have been friends for years. When he was a head coach in Jacksonville, it's just like Andy. Andy and I are very good friends. Have a chance to text Andy a lot during the course of the season. Love the foundation he's created in Kansas City. Now the expectation is really high.
Yeah.
You could almost see Kansas City's situation happening around the 9th game. I mean, the last 2-3 victories in that 9-0 start, they were dicey at best and against not very good football teams. They relied on their defense so much. It was their offense that picked up. And then all of a sudden you see the offense start to take off and play better. But Jamal Charles going out in the playoff game was it. I mean, when you couldn't have your best horse on the field, And that's why I think the running game is so important and stopping the run. When
Right.
your best horse isn't out there, it's hard to be able to do things from an offense.
There's no doubt if you're burning the clock, you're helping your defense. We talk about it all the time here that defense gets better by sitting and watching.
Plus
you're not giving up yards.
Plus you lose the explosiveness. Yeah, you could look at the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game and say, well, they were burning the clock a little bit, but then all of a sudden Marshawn breaks off for 40 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Against a great defense
Sure.
in San Francisco. Now, how does he go 40 yards against that defense? And you have to ask yourself, how does LeGarrette Blount,
They wear him down.
go 60 on anybody?
Yeah, you get worn
Catch
down.
the right moment.
Do you mentioned those last few games of the win streak and what was happening? Have you ever seen, though, is it just a sign of the fine line of against bad teams that Chiefs defense can look dominant, but then you get against the good teams and you can be so exposed? Because they went from being historic in their pace on sacks and turnovers to, I mean, we talk about it. They flipped from being like the 2000 Ravens, a team that was just trying to win 13-10, to becoming Dick Vermeil's 03 Chiefs, where they were trying to win 44-41. I mean,
they had to try and win that way.
Yeah, that's a tribute to the offense, that the offense came together under Alex Smith and Andy Reid.
I look at really good football teams. Don't worry about the opponent. You have to play to a certain standard and a certain level. So when you step on the football field, if you're playing a really good football team, you may win 28-21.
Right.
You may win 17-10, whatever, but you may win 35-34. It doesn't matter. But when you're playing a really good football team, there's a certain standard you play at. When you're playing a bad football team, you have to beat them by 3 touchdowns. So your standard of excellence remains consistent. The opponents change on their skill levels, their abilities, the way they approach their philosophies. And then depending upon how good they are, you can measure yourself accordingly. But that's the one thing we were with the Washington Redskins when I played in 82, 83, 84 in particular, those 3 years. In 83, when we were the highest scoring team in the history of football at that time, it wasn't a question of we were going to win a football game.
Yeah.
The only question in my mind was how many points we were going to score. It really had very little to do with who was on the other side of the ball. Because we just felt like we could line up and do what we wanted to do. And defensively, we felt like we supported one another enough. This is one of the statistics that nobody ever really talks about. I believe we were plus 42 in giveaway takeaway in 1983, which is absurd.
Yes.
It's obscene and unheard of.
And then the reason I know that is because we were looking at those stats from the Chiefs in the first half, and your Redskin team would pop up.
Right.
The Bears, their sack totals were the Bears 85 team would pop up, and
Right.
you remember how dominant some of those teams were along the way. Is Alex Smith a guy that you think can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. I think that I think that he has the ability to be able to lead a football team where it needs to go. Throws the ball well enough. Has total command of the game. Now he's going to have some opportunities. He's got weapons around him. I'm going to be curious to see what the Chiefs decide they want to add to their football team. Where do they want to add some personnel? Where do they want to pick up a free agent? Where do they want to go in the draft?
This is the hard part, right? I mean, going from being a doormat to being they were 11-5. That's not like they were 9-7.
Yeah, but they were 9-0. That's the whole thing.
Right.
The 11-5 becomes a little bit of a.
Oh yeah, 2-5.
It's 2-5 at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how you want
That's
to.
That's what I'm saying. They're kind of in the middle there. They could very easily slide back to 6-10. This is the hard part, though, becoming that 12 and better, that 13-14 win team. That's the hard part.
I think you're going to look at the Kansas City Chiefs and say they're going to win 10. Will they win 13?
That's the work that has to be done.
Those 3 games are where you have to find the people to make a difference.
Now,
and you have to stay healthy.
Now, I know people remember that you were hurt on the field, obviously, pretty badly, and I know that you've got a passion for the game of football and keeping youngsters. You're doing some work with
for youth football as
exactly.
well. Yeah, there's a company that I have an association with called Unequal, and you can go to our website, which is unequal.com. And Pop Warner Football and Unequal are looking forward to partnering on advancing protection for Pop Warner football. It's Pop Warner football's enrollments have suffered over the last couple of years because parents are concerned.
Sure.
And they have every right to be. Kurt Warner was an individual who didn't want his son playing football. He was adamantly against it. He actually sought out the technology that's available in the Unequal product, a gyro for the inside of helmets, and now feels like his sons can play again with a much better comfort level. That's a parent, not a professional football player talking, but that's a parent. We have about 100 guys in the NFL that actually use the Unequal product in their helmets and on various parts of their body, but the helmets particularly. And the National Federation of High Schools has approved Unequal to be used in the helmets for high school kids. So it's something that I believe in. And I would hate to see people shy away, parents shy away from letting their kids play Pop Warner football. I understand the safety factor.
Right.
That's why I'm so adamant about it. But there were so many great lessons that I learned from Pop Warner football that have served me the rest of my life. Working with teammates, taking authority from someone other than your parents, the disciplines of practice, the physical conditioning, the learning to win, the learning to lose. All of those things are a part of Pop Warner football. And that's why we're excited about hopefully the opportunity to be able to
And what's
partner
the
with
website
them.
again?
It's unequal.com,
Okay.
unequal.com.
We do a lot. Our friends at No Brothers Sports do a lot with the safety and the equipment and everything. So it's a great website. Joe, before I let you go, I got to give you my final four quickies. Tell me the first thing that pops in your head. It's the favorite item on your menu in your restaurant there in Virginia?
Spirelli chicken.
Spirelli chicken. All right. Do you have any Argos gear left from your playing days?
My helmet.
You do? You still have it?
Absolutely. It sits right next to my Redskin helmet and my Notre Dame helmet.
Very nice. Player you enjoy watching the most?
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning. And who wins?
Seattle.
Seattle. Very good. Hey, Joe, always great to talk with you. We'll see you in Tahoe, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. You bet.
Take care.
Bye-bye.